Is this just my version of an out of office message? It's like those emails that are like, I hope this email doesn't find you. I hope that you are free. And welcome to this week's episode of the Uncovery podcast. My name is Maddie and I'm recovering from anorexia, and I talk about it on this podcast. But for the next few weeks, we won't be having any new episodes. We're going to take a little bit of a break for the rest of the summer before diving into season 3, which is going to look and feel a little bit different. We're shifting, expanding themes. We'll be on YouTube. We'll be doing video. It's going to be very exciting. And the 2 seasons have really flown by. I find it difficult to comprehend that I think it's like 63 or 64 episodes that we're on now, and how much can change in, over a year and a half. But it's been phenomenal to get to do this so far, and I cannot wait for what's about to come. So yeah, I've been thinking about recovery and where I am in recovery and where these updates of recovery fit now, because less of them seem to be happening. I had a little revelation this week about how these wins that used to be very, very salient in the moment that they would happen throughout recovery are getting to be less and less of a big deal, or less and less of a notable event subjectively for me as I experience them. I went for lunch this week, and like people go for lunch all the time. I go for lunch now more than I used to, but it's a very big deal when you have an eating disorder and you're trying to eat at a restaurant, or more appropriately, you're trying to not eat at a restaurant even when you're at one. And realizing that recovery brings you mostly normalcy. Recovery doesn't actually provide you all the time with some kind of sparkly, above and beyond, out of this world existence. But it allows you to enter this period of normal that's unprecedented for you after so many years of disorder and disarray and abnormality. To even enter a world of normal and play within it, that feels sparkly. But then over time, throughout recovery, it restabilizes, it rebalances. And I think the adaptability of human beings and our little brains means that everything loses its luster over time. And so the point of recovery is to eventually just be bored of recovery, or at least of how much time and energy and attention it takes up. And it's interesting because I continue to talk about recovery probably more than the average person that goes through it, because of this podcast and how much I care about kind of delivering certain messages around recovery. But it does get more and more tedious to continually revisit recovery and recovery stuff and challenging yourself and finding new wins and things like that. They just get a little bit more dull. But that's good. That's good. That's the idea, is that nothing needs to be that exciting and intense forever, especially when it comes to food and your body. The point of it is to make that stuff completely average, normal, and boring. That's really the goal. And so I'm finding myself getting closer and closer and closer to that being all the time, where I'm just like not that fussed about looking forward to, trying new food or new meals or whatever. I'm like, okay, I've tried a lot of things. I've challenged a lot of things. I'm relatively open to pretty much anything that kind of crosses my path. And I'm able to adapt and move flexibly within the world to such such a larger extent than I ever have been, that it makes it difficult for me to really understand, have I even actually like made it all the way to the other side, or is this as normal as it gets? Like, how normal does normal ever get? And I don't know. I think just like over time, I'll just like things change less and less, and you sort of just stabilize in this place. But anyways, something as simple as going out for lunch becomes very, very normal and easy. And you actually don't have to build yourself up from either an eating disordered perspective or from a recovery person perspective. The eating disorder perspective of going for lunch is, what will I have had to do to allow myself to even go eat at it or eat something slightly outside of my comfort zone in the lunch itself? So from the eating disorder perspective, it's like, do I have to restrict even more in the days leading up? Or do I need to exercise for hours and hours on end on the day of and after? Do I have to look up the menu online and then calculate the calories of whatever it is that I think I might even allow myself to eat? Do I have to sit there only drinking water, not by choice, not because I like water or that it's hydrating or that it's hot out, but because it's 0 calories and that's all that I drink? Do I have to sit there and think about what someone else is eating, what I'm eating, focus only on the food and have really no memory of the conversation? That's the eating disorder version of going out for lunch. The recovery version of going out for lunch is deciding you're going to challenge yourself and feeling quite anxious about doing so, but being committed to doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Choosing something that you know that you wouldn't have before, choosing something that you know is going to be a challenge, planning it out ahead of time, knowing what you're going to do, where you're going. And in a lot of ways, it has a similar energy to the eating disorder planning because it's so mindful and it's so involved cognitively to get through it. But you have to do that. You have to have that kind of mindset when you're really in the weeds of recovery. But if you are like moving forward with your life and you've started to sort of re-normalize, none of that is happening. None of that is happening. None of your mental resources have to go towards that. All you have to do is show up where you're supposed to show up and sit down with whoever it is that you're with and just like have a good time. And you get to focus on the conversation and you get to have whatever it is that you want. And then you just get to eat it, and you don't have to do any of this like finagling of, oh, this is how I'd like you to modify my meal. Oh, not this part. I only want that part. Or I'm only going to eat half of it. Or whatever these little like tricks and games are, you can just order it straight off the menu as it comes. And it feels revolutionary. It feels so revolutionary the first times that you do that. And for a while practicing that, just being like, I will have this as is. The only changes I will make to it is if I'm like allergic to an ingredient or really, really don't like something, genuinely, which when it's that you like something or when you don't like something. And when it's, oh, I don't like that because it has too many calories, or I quote unquote can't control myself around that type of food, whatever it is. You know the truth about like what it is that your tastes actually prefer. Although, eating disorders can mess with your taste buds. So like, that aside, you know what you really like. Anyways, those wins are still wins, but I don't notice them as wins very much anymore because it's like a very normal feeling existence right now. So that's been it's like cool to experience that because it makes me excited to tell other people about that. Because I'm like, you can totally do this. Like you can totally go for lunch. You can totally go for lunch and not have to do any mental gymnastics. And like, it isn't special that I have done that. I'm not a special person to have gone through recovery. Like any single person is capable of making the changes that have gotten me to where I am with this. Because I was not that long ago in the place of even like going out for lunch and not knowing what to order and looking online and all of these things, if not avoiding the entire exercise altogether. But it really, really wasn't that long ago that I was in the place of like, I'm challenging this consciously over and over. And like, I'm mindfully challenging my fears and stuff like that. That was not long ago. I still run into those things where I'm like, ooh, don't know if I've had that in a decade. Cause like, it just takes a while to get through the entire rotation of all fear foods. Like it just takes a while to encounter any food that you had previously restricted. Like there's just a lot of food out there. And so they will still come up that I'm like, oh yeah, I actually haven't had that since I was 20. Like that's how she goes. So I hope that you have a wonderful next bit of your summer. And I hope that you go for ice cream, and I hope that you don't think about it. I hope that you have picnics, and I hope that you have fun cocktails, and I hope that you wear the bikini and realize that nobody is thinking about it except for you, and try to soak up as much of the good juicy bits of life as is possible. And we'll see you in season 3. Thanks for being here.